Hello everyone, welcome to Business Talk podcast. I am your host Deepak. Today we have the privilege of hosting Professor Kiran Pedada, a distinguished professor of marketing, F. Rose Johnson Fellow Asper School of Business at University of Manitoba, Canada. In this episode, Professor Pedada will dwell into how leveraging digital strategies can enhance your brand's market position and drive sustainable growth. So let's extend a warm welcome to Professor Kiran, an exceptional research scholar and the recipient of Best Teacher of the Year award for consecutive 2 years at the Indian School of Business, joining us on today's podcast. Professor Kiran, a very warm welcome to this podcast episode. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Deepak. I really appreciate you hosting me on your podcast. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Professor Kiran, could you start by explaining what digital orientation means in the context of modern business strategy?
Sure. So, first of all, thank you once again for hosting me. I am truly honored. Digital orientation, it has become a very important aspect of success for businesses these days. If you want me to, define digital orientation, it is essentially a strategic orientation for firms. Okay, it's a firm's sort of guiding principle to focus on pursuing digital technology adoption. Okay, so essentially, firms actually focus on digitally enabled opportunities to improve their competitive advantage in the marketplace, right? So, for example, we have seen a lot of digital native companies that have been extremely successful, right? So, for example, Netflix. So its digital orientation, of using AI and data has given Netflix the competitive advantage in the streaming services industry, right? So, and in the if you look at companies with higher digital orientation, they tend to adopt different digital technologies, be it AI, IoT, robotics, etc. Right? So the goal is to essentially create and deliver better value to their customers, right? Let's say we just talked about Netflix. Okay, it offers personalized solutions to its customers. Okay, similarly Uber, okay, Airbnb, okay, they all use digital technologies. Okay, but one of the most important aspects that we need to think about when it comes to using digital technologies is that are they sort of introducing new business models, right? Okay, so if we look at Uber, Airbnb, or Netflix, okay, so they have sort of come up with new business models that actually created and delivered better value to their customers. So that essentially led to competitive advantage for those companies, right? Okay, so so digital, even if you take like traditional companies, okay, traditional retail companies, like for example Target in the US, okay, especially during COVID, Target, digitally transformed itself. Okay, for example, offering seamless experiences to consumers, like by adopting omni-channel, strategies, right? Okay, so they modernize their supply chain, and they also, increase the drive-through sort of experiences for customers. Okay, so even it's not just for, I would say, companies that are starting with digital, but even for traditional companies, okay, tweaking their business models, okay, by adopting new technologies, right? So yeah.
So can you elaborate on the concept of market-based assets and how they differ from traditional assets?
It's a good question, actually. I think for company orientation, if they want to be successful, they need to focus on building and leveraging their market-based assets. Okay. So before understanding what exactly market-based assets are, let's try to understand what are assets, right? Okay. So assets are essentially organizational attributes or resources, okay, that organizations can acquire, develop, nurture, and also leverage them, okay, to kind of create and deliver better value to their customers, right? Okay. So market-based assets, if you talk about, like, these are market-based assets because these are intangible, okay? These are off balance sheet, okay? As the saying goes, heard melodies are sweet and unheard are sweeter, right? Essentially, market-based assets are unheard melodies. Okay, so these are essentially intangible, right? Colleagues essentially introduced market-based assets in 1998, and it created a completely new stream of research on the interface of marketing and finance. Okay, so coming to market-based assets, they are like basically two types. One is relational assets, and the other one is intellectual assets. So relational assets are intangible assets associated with external organizations. Okay, for example, the relationships that you build with your channel partners. Okay, the relationship with customers, the relationship with other external stakeholders like strategic alliance partners, etc. Whereas intellectual assets are essentially the intangible assets that reside within the firm, right? So, for example, knowledge about both internal environment, okay, and also the external environment, right? For example, how to leverage our product-based capabilities to come up with new products, okay? Actually leverage our relationships with, I would say, channel partners, right? Okay, so knowledge about these things are essentially intellectual assets, right? So in fact, when it comes to digital transformation, okay, for companies, both relational as well as intellectual market-based assets are very important. So companies with high digital orientation must focus on building and leveraging these market-based assets. Okay, so our research essentially focuses on, like, how building and leveraging market-based assets help companies with high digital orientation, right? Yeah.
Very insightful. So how does digital orientation influence a brand competitiveness in today's market, Professor?
Sure. So that's what we have we actually researched and published recently. So essentially, if you think about brand competitiveness, right, for any brand, essentially drives a brand's performance. Okay. So in general, we call competitive advantage. Okay, that's nothing but essentially brand's competitiveness, right? So it's a brand's ability to outperform other brands or their competitors in the marketplace by creating and delivering greater value to their customers, right? Okay. So our recent research actually suggests that a higher digital orientation actually positively affects brand competitiveness, right? Okay. The reason behind that finding is that if firms are actually strategically leveraging digital technologies, okay, that's what firms with higher digital orientation do. That can help them build and essentially even leverage critical market-based assets. Okay, for example, think about like investments in digital technology, as like, for example, AI, right? We talked about Netflix, right? So they improve relational assets, in the sense that they help them build their relationships with their customers because the customers are more satisfied. Okay, because you are essentially solving their problems by personalizing the content. Okay, so that will essentially help their help improve customer experience, right? So similarly, investing in digital technologies not only help in developing intellectual market-based assets, but they will also help develop relational. They will not only help develop relational market-based assets, but they will also help develop intellectual market-based assets. Right? For example, think about it by solving customers' problems and spending a lot of time thinking about customers, gaining customer insights. You're essentially generating and analyzing more, right? So this is in turn sort of helping the organization to develop, more and more sort of intellectual market-based assets. For example, market intelligence and all, right? So all these things together are helping companies to not only provide better customer experience, but also increase their operational efficiency, right? So all these things are essentially helping them create and deliver better value to their customers. So if you look at firms with higher digital orientation, okay, they can actually create higher brand competitiveness, okay, because they can those companies with digital transformation can build and leverage essentially market-based assets. Okay, so that is our essentially finding. Yeah.
Very nice. What are some of the practical ways that companies can integrate digital strategies into their existing business models to enhance market-based assets?
That's a very good question, actually. So look at our current research, which is ongoing. Okay, it suggests that in fact, if firms with higher digital orientation, if they invest in building and leveraging their market-based assets, okay, it helps them create better shareholder value. Okay, so that is one research that we are actually currently working on. So what our findings suggest is that digital orientation for firms and market-based assets, okay, essentially the ability to build and leverage market-based assets and digital orientation, they work as complementary resources to improve shareholder value, right? If we look at some of the existing companies, for example, Disney is a great example. Okay, like you talked about integrating digital strategies into their existing business model. Okay, to enhance market-based assets. In other words, both relational as well as intellectual market-based assets, right? So for example, Disney, came up with innovations such as Magic Band. Okay, I'm not sure whether you visited Disneyland and all. So there is something called My Magic Plus. Okay, so essentially, they integrated that My Magic Plus with Magic Band and all. So the Magic Band actually, what it does is it personalizes visitor interactions, right? So when you're actually personalizing visitor interactions, you're actually increasing their satisfaction, okay, improving their experience, right? So by improving their experience, you're actually building better relational assets, okay, and by doing it more, you're building better intellectual assets as well, right? So even Walmart is actually doing that, right? So it is improving its market-based assets by leveraging generative AI. Okay, so Walmart partnered with Microsoft, right? For example, from Microsoft improve the digital shopping experience of Walmart's customers, right? Okay, so essentially, I think integrating market-based assets with digital orientation is, essentially to either improve existing business models or even come up with new business models. I think, yeah, so these are some of the ways that companies can actually do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Could you discuss how leveraging digital strategies can drive sustainable growth for the brands?
Actually, as we were talking about, digital orientation can actually help companies uh, improve their competitiveness, right? Okay, improve brand competitiveness, right? So, and if we look at, see, I think sustainable growth is very, very important, right? Okay. So you are set to have a sort of a unique value proposition only essentially, right? Okay. So, definitely leveraging digital strategies can drive sustainable growth. Okay, not just like a one-time thing, right? So, I see if you ask me about like sustainable growth, like companies that leverage digital strategies for sustainable growth, I can think of two companies. Okay, two most valuable companies in the world. One is Microsoft, and the other one is Apple, right? Okay. So, for example, Microsoft Azure. So they use data and AI. Okay. They actually essentially moved from a sort of a Windows system to a cloud-based system that has completely, transformed them and helped them sort of gain sustainable competitive advantage, right? So, and similarly, Apple transformed itself as a computer software and hardware, business to a sort of a now think about it, right? Mm, you know, Companies can actually leverage business strategies to drive sustainable growth. So the most important thing is to sort of figure out, first of all, what problem are we solving? Okay, and how can we sort of leverage the existing data to solve that problem, right? So I think customer centricity is very, very important, right? So yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the common challenges organizations face when they adopt digital orientation, and how the top management overcome these obstacles?
So that's a great question, actually. In fact, our research suggests that and so many reports are also written on this. For example, BCG, right? So they suggest that 70% of all digital transformations actually fail, right? Okay. And there is a lot of, I would say, speculation about why these things happen and all, right? So, and in fact, our own research, okay, we published a paper on digital readiness of small and medium enterprises. What are the antecedents and consequences? Okay. So from that study and also from other studies that we do and also our executive education programs, we understand that the one of the biggest challenges for organizations in adopting sort of digital technologies is that first of all the lack of managerial capabilities to leverage data. Okay, you have access to data, but you don't know how to leverage the data. Yeah, it is as good as not having access to data, right? Okay, so the first thing is that do you have the abilities to actually managerial capabilities to actually leverage data? I think that's first thing. And the second challenge is that I think companies are very resistant, to change, right? So what is more important is agility is very, very important, right? So what is actually agility when it comes to digital transformation? It is the firm's ability to sort of make sense of the kind of digital technologies that are out there, okay, that are upcoming in the future, and what kind of market disruptions that are actually happening in the market, right? So, and you prepare yourself to respond very quickly, right? So I think for agility, speed is very, very important, right? So that can actually help companies gain competitive advantage in the marketplace. So the second challenge is that companies are not agile, okay, to adopt, right? So, and the other sort of challenge is that companies fail to sort of identify um, so new way of creating value for existing customers. Okay, like coming up with new business models and all. So, and second thing is many companies, in fact, ignore. So sorry, many companies don't even think about like I would say Pinduoduo, okay, PDD in China, which was actually founded by a guy called Colin Huang. It's a great example actually, right? So how they sort of focused on ignored customer segments, right? That were completely ignored by, I would say, Alibaba, right? PDD has become like one of the most valuable companies in the world, right? Okay, so what our recent study on SMEs, okay, when adopting digital orientation suggests is that one of the biggest challenges for them is like legacy sort of systems and legacy employees, right? So when you have legacy sort of employees, like that actually creates tremendous resistance to change. However, what we found is that SMEs with more millennials in the top management, okay, they tend to actually sort of be faster in digital transformation, right? Yeah.
So do you also face the similar kind of situation with the second generation entrepreneur in SMEs?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So do you also face the similar kind of situation with second generation entrepreneur?
Yeah, in fact, we that could be possible essentially, right? So, I think one of the challenges is, but I think now the new age entrepreneurs and all, I think that challenge is like uh, uh, going. I mean, it's more and more lesser, and there is no option. Like companies have to digitally transform if you think about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Professor, what are the key findings from your research on digital orientation and market-based asset that you every business leader should know?
So as I mentioned already,
The key
um,
3 points basically, if you can share.
yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the first point, if you think about, is like the most important thing is coming on building market-based assets. Okay, so essentially, how we can create both relational assets as well as intellectual assets, right? Okay, so investing in building market-based assets is very, very important. Okay, so once you build those market-based assets, how can we actually leverage these market-based assets, right? To sort of create, new, business model, new ways of, catering to these customers and all. I think these two things are very, very important, right? So, and the second sort of key finding that we have is that strategic emphasis of the firm, right? For example, if firms are actually investing sort of more on sort of innovation, right? For example, right? So they tend to gain more from having a higher digital sort of orientation, right? Because you have to keep on finding like what's happening, the market disruptions and things like that, right? So, and the third thing that we actually find is that if companies actually focus on these I would say, ignored customers, right? In other words, emerging customer segments. For example, Pinduoduo, as I mentioned. So Colin Hong found that in China, 50% of mobile phone users or internet users on mobile phones, they never sort of shopped online, right? And he further did research to identify why they did not, right? So, and he understood that essentially three key things. One is they actually live in tier 3, tier 4 kind of cities, and the second thing is that in those households, mostly women take care of the sort of the household decisions and things like that. And they are very sort of price sensitive. Okay, and they essentially buy in groups. Okay, like the mall kind of thing. And the third one they found is that they don't actually buy the regular stuff like is sold on Alibaba or Amazon, etc. Right? So like fashion or whatever. So they buy like fresh goods, fresh produce, essentially, right? By understanding all these insights, Pinduoduo actually disrupted the e-commerce market by focusing on social e-commerce, right? So we published a paper in Management and Business Review, which is a new practitioner journal, which is co-sponsored by 12 top business schools in the world. So we talk about like how companies like social e-commerce companies are essentially disrupting the e-commerce market, right? So I think the most important thing is, I mean, these are the three important takeaways. One is you build and leverage market-based assets, and the second thing is that have like and the third thing is essentially focus on ignored customers, or in other words, emerging customer segments, right? Yeah.
So how can organizations measure the success of their digital orientation strategies?
Okay, so if you look at measuring the success of digital orientation, see, the first thing is to measure success of anything, you need to actually tie it to the objectives, right? Okay, so the most important thing for companies to understand is what is the overall objective of the organization, okay? And what is the role of digital technologies in sort of achieving those objectives, right? Okay, so if they understand that, like, I think first of all, they will be successful, okay, deploying digital technologies. I mean, blindly, sort of deploying digital technologies versus, okay, oh, we understand that there is a problem, okay, and the digital technology, okay, essentially, digital technology itself is not the solution, but it is a sort of a tool that can actually sort of help us, So the understanding the problem is very, very important. And what objective are you trying to achieve? And if we can do that, I think there are several measures for success if you think about it, right? So it could be market share, okay? And it could be essentially customer satisfaction. And it could be stock performance, for example, right? And these are all like potential measures of your, digital orientation strategy success, right? Yeah.
What advice would you give to aspiring marketers and business leaders who want to leverage digital strategies to enhance their brand competitiveness? Any thoughtful?
So, yeah. Actually, the advice I want to give, I mean, again, from our research, what we understand is that agility is very, very important, right? Okay. So therefore, I think be open-minded. Be aware of the, marketplace, like, market disruptions, be open-minded and respond very quickly, essentially, right? Okay. So technology sense making and, agility are the most important, okay? And the other advice I want to give is that please think about the intangible assets. Okay, these are like extremely important. If you look at like some of the largest brands in the world, like Microsoft, Apple, okay, Nvidia, so they all essentially focused on building and leveraging their market-based assets, both relational market-based assets and intellectual market-based assets, right? So I think focusing on investing in these market-based assets, right? Okay, so I would say like these two things are very very important. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Can you suggest any further reading or resources for our listeners who are interested in, diving deeper into this topic?
Sure. So yeah, definitely. I benefited tremendously from reading Driving Digital Strategy by Professor Sunil Gupta. Okay. Definitely, I would recommend reading that book. Okay. And another book, like, that could respond to your question as well. Why digital transformation? What are the challenges essentially, right? So we talk about like digital transformations fail, etc. By Tony Saldana. Okay. Why digital transformations fail? Okay. So these are the two further readings, and the third thing I would encourage listeners to read is our research papers. Okay, we have a California Management Review article, digital transformation as disruptive strategy, right? So that has a lot of implications for managers, right? So and our management business review article focusing on like how social e-commerce is disrupting the e-commerce market, right? And even our forthcoming work, right? So these are some of the potential sort of resources I could advise. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you very much, Professor Kiran, for enlightening us on this our podcast episode. And I hope our listeners are, will get definitely, benefits from this thoughtful talk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Yeah, sure.